Hey guys, welcome back to Shep Talk and welcome back to another Shep Talk movie review. Before we get into that movie review though, if you haven't done so already, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. It helps my channel out greatly and I do truly appreciate it. Also guys, if you want to keep up to date with what I'm doing, what I'm seeing, and what I'm playing, make sure you follow me all on my social media. Those links will be down below. But now, let's get back to my review of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny was directed by James Mangold, was written by James Mangold, Jez Butterworth, John Henry Butterworth, and David Coop, who knows. It also stars Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones, Phoebe Waller-Bridge as Helena, Karen Allen as Marion, and John Rhys Davis as Sala. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny has a runtime of 2 hours and 34 minutes. Quick synopsis. Indy is pulled out of retirement when his goddaughter Helena comes to visit and starts asking questions about an artifact her dad and Indy found at the end of World War II. Let me say right off the bat that the opening sequence to this movie is done really well. We get a flashback to the end of World War II and Indiana Jones is fighting some Nazis, and of course in this day and age, the studios use de-aging process or the de-aging technique a lot, and it works for the majority of this opening sequence really well. The one thing they haven't gotten down, or they didn't change, at least that I caught, was Harrison Ford voicing Indy, a young Indy. No matter what, people's voice change when they grow older, and sometimes you can't capture that magic. But really, for the de-aging process itself, they did a really good job. Following that though, on how good of a job they did with the de-aging process, obviously this movie does use CGI. There's a lot of things in this movie that, because they're going back in time to the 1950s, 1960s, 1940s, and even maybe further back, they have to use CGI. And sometimes that CGI smacks. You can definitely tell that they really put some time and effort in the CGI. But then there's other times where the CGI just kind of, like, it does feel kind of flat, where you can tell that the background is not really there. But, you know, like, one of the main things I saw, or what always caught my attention, was when they were driving, and they're driving fast, and they're in the car, and they're bumping around and stuff like that. You know that they're not really jumping around in cars like that. And you can see that background, that CGI background, is kind of struggling to keep up with them. And again, this is an Indiana Jones movie, but Harrison Ford is, I think, in his 80s, maybe? Maybe not his 80s, maybe his late 70s. So he's getting up there in age. He can't do all the stunts that he used to do as a young Harrison Ford, a young Indy could. And that's alright. They do try to work around it. They don't try to get us physical with him. They kind of try to keep that quirky one-liner in Indy. And he does throw some punches, and he does do some stunts. But really, they leave this up to Helena, or Phoebe's character Helena, as the person to do a lot of the physical stunts in this movie. Indy does still have a lot of physical stunts, but I'm pretty sure that if we took a closer look, those stunts would be handled by a stunt actor. In the introduction of Helena, that is not the only new character we get Teddy. And Teddy is, I'm going to say, a version, or maybe a newer version of Short Round, the 1960s versions of Short Round, where Helena and him kind of have this relationship where they started off as kind of like enemies, but now they're friends and they are helping out each other. And he does have some really good comedic moments, and he does bring some humor to these parts of Indiana Jones. But speaking about comedic moments, this really wouldn't be an Indy movie if we didn't have comedic moments, because Indiana Jones does have the smart-ass one-liners, the quirky one-liners, just the quirky moments, and they bring that back. We get those classic Indy moments. We see him having those moments with Helena, with the villains. I think they realized what they wanted in this movie. They wanted a classic Indy movie, and they made sure to, make sure that those comedic elements that we had fun with in the previous movies were definitely here. And I've mentioned Helena. Helena is the goddaughter to Indiana Jones, and this really, to me, feels like it is a passing of the torch to Helena. Helena's, I feel like, a more, not the Professor Indy, but the adventurer Indy. The Indy that we kind of would like the torch to be passed to. I could actually see the studios going, if this movie really does well, passing that torch to Helena, to Phoebe, the actress, and being like, okay, you are now the new Indiana Jones. I don't know if they'd change it to Helena or maybe how they would go it, but I can see them branching off and having Helena be the Indy going forward. I really think that if Indiana and the Dial of Destiny was the fourth movie, if we didn't have Kingdom Skull, or Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, whatever the hell that movie was called, that we probably would have had more Indiana Jones movies besides the 5 we have right now. I think this was a good sequel to the first 3 Indiana Jones movies, and one of the reasons I'm saying that is because it really feels like James Mangold and the studio really did a 180. They acknowledged that Indiana Jones 4 exists, and they've actually written off some of those characters in words, if not sentences, that they've said on screen. So they are really trying to make people forget about the 4th movie, concentrate on the first 3 movies and how this is more of a direct successor to those movies. And I will say one of the feel-good moments in this movie is that Karen Allen comes back to play Marion, who's been in the Indiana Jones movies, who was in the 4th movie, but also kind of closes out the circle with Indiana and Marion. I think it has a really good touching moment, and I think they really bring those two to a satisfying conclusion for this movie. I will say, with as much fun and excitement that you have on this movie, that the movie does kind of slow down in the middle. It's almost like I did call out No Hard Feelings to doing, like, you know, the paint by number steps for, you know, raunchy comedy last time, and they kind of do the same thing with Indy, which still works because I think the writing, the acting, and the directing is much better in this movie than it was in No Hard Feelings. But the middle does slow down while Indy and Helena are trying to find the other part of the Dial of the Destiny. And bringing on to that, we also have the villains, which I think Mads Mikkelsen, who does a fantastic job in these movies, they don't do too much with these villains. They use them as pretty much stereotypical Nazis and really are brought on scene when they want the heroes to be moving forward on, you know, it's like, oh, we're here at location A. Oh, we've been staying around here too long? Oh, look, here's the Nazis. They're coming to find us. And, oh, they got what they want. Now they're moving on to the next stage, so we better go follow them or we better run away from them. I wish they would have better developed them. I get it. It's Nazis. Their motivation isn't real deep or complicated. It felt like they were very underutilized. And with that being said as well, too, they do the campy or stereotypical villain stuff where they have the heroes dead to rights, but instead of just killing them, they either bring them with them or they leave them there hoping that in the situation that they're at that they're going to die. And as we know, that's not going to happen. And I get that, guys. It is a movie. If you kill the heroes off, the movie pretty much ends. That'd be the same thing as if the stormtroopers in Star Wars had killed the heroes in Star Wars, the movie would have ended. So, and then the premise of the Dial of Destiny. Unlike Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, I think the Dial of Destiny worked better for this movie. We already had kind of like the mystical, magical moments in the first 3 movies, especially with the Holy Grail and the Ark of the Covenant. So having the Dial of Destiny and the properties that it has didn't really seem too far-fetched in an Indiana movie, and I think it really worked. Even with the scenes that happened because of the Dial of Destiny being used, I still think it really worked. I thought it was really well done, and I had a good time with it. I will say one of the most disappointing things is though when they're finally in like the cavern and getting close to finding where the Dial of the Destiny is kept, that I wanted more. There wasn't no sense of danger with this. Like Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, when Indy is going to find the Holy Grail, there were traps in that place that were designed to kill and harm anybody that was trying to come into it that didn't really know the path. There wasn't any of those traps or like that sense of danger for this, except for the Nazis, of course, coming in later. But there's really no rush, no urgency, no sense of like needing to get this done quickly or safely. And that's probably one of my disappointing parts of this movie. Overall, I think Indiana Jones and Dial of Destiny is a really good sequel to the first 3 Indiana Jones movies. It does give us that classic Indy feel. And like I said, I think Phoebe could really take this Helena character and move the Indiana Jones franchise forward. I could see that. I could see the Indiana Jones fans, this should bring them back. I think they will have much fun with this movie. I think they will get the scenes that are supposed to be heartwarming and the cameos and bringing us close, you know, bringing this as a true kind of Indiana Jones movie. Where I also see the non-indie fans that come and see this movie or get brought to see this movie could see a nice classic, you know, adventure movie. So guys, even that, it was a fun and enjoyable movie. And with all that being said though, Shep Talk is going to give Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny 4 Sheps out of 5. Have you guys seen it? Let me know down in the comments down below. But guys, that is all I have time for today. Thank you for watching. And again, if you haven't done so already, remember to like, share, and subscribe to this video. It does help my channel out greatly, and I do truly appreciate it. And I will see you in the next review.